Hey, everybody, welcome to the Hire My VA Team and Business Building Podcast, where we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking your bank, the bank, whatever bank. It's not going to break any bank. Don't worry about it. I'm Dave Braun here, and I'm here with my partner, co-host, friend, fire evacuator dude, Larry Broughton.
Hello, my friend David. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
Yep. Let's hope you don't have to evacuate again because
I'm dressing down. I am like going Mr. Casual like every day right now. For those who don't know, I just got evacuated from my home for the second time. In about 3 weeks due to the wildfires here in Southern California. I'm back in. Got back in. What's today? Got back in Friday. Today is Sunday, but it looks like I'm have to go. They're expecting big winds overnight and that to kick the fire back up. So
yeah,
taking it hour by hour right now.
Yep. Got to do that.
That's right.
Well, at least we're safe here. You're safe too.
That's right. Don't be surprised if you get a knock on your door in the middle of the night with me and the dog.
Okay. We're open. I'll leave the door open for you.
Yeah. Leave the light on, as they say at Motel 6.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's get into our topic for the day. Now, This is going to be a little bit of a different one, but I think it's going to be a longer episode.
Sure.
But here's what it is. We've gotten some questions, and here it is. I've heard a lot about getting a mentor or a coach, but how do I go about doing this? And what are some of the considerations, the qualities in the person? In fact, why should I even get one in the first place? What good is it? Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to just talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this is what we do. We are mentors and coaches. Boy, do we hear stories, right, Dave, of people who kind of come into our program and there's levels of frustration that they have with past coaches and mentors that they have, or they're trying to reach success or certain levels of potential in their life and in their business, and they've never had a coach. And then all of a sudden they're kind of propelled forward.
Yeah.
Well, I remember there's a guy, I think it's Bob Nardini. Is that the former CEO of Lowe's? I think it is. And he says that basically, I'm going to butcher the quote, but basically no one ever reaches their fullest potential without having a mentor or a coach. And in fact, when he was promoted to the CEO position, the board required that he have a mentor and a coach. Yeah. All right, this is the CEO of a large organization, right?
Yeah.
And for those folks who've been in the mentoring and the coaching world for a while, you hear these analogies all the time. Like Michael Jordan, one of the best basketball players of all time. Kobe, rest his soul, had coaches up until retirement, right? Tiger Woods, best golfer supposedly ever, still has coaches. We've got to be reminded, we've got to be doing the basics, and you got to have somebody in your life, Dave, who's outside looking in, helping you improve, someone who's got a little bit more knowledge than you do in certain areas, and someone who's going to hold you accountable from time to time. I'm just a big believer that we must have mentors and coaches, and frankly, be part of a mastermind if you can swing that one as too. Sometimes the person who is running the mastermind is indeed your coach and mentor. Sometimes coaches and mentors will bring their clients together to run a mastermind, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit also then about, we use that term coaches and mentors. And before we go into that, I agree with you. You think about sports teams, right? They've got, you wouldn't even think, even little league kids, right? 5-year-olds, they have coaches. Why is it that they have coaches there, but we sometimes don't have it in the business world? It really comes down to any place that we want to make fast progress.
Yeah.
You've got to have a coach. You can learn it on your own, but it may take a lot of time.
Yeah. It's interesting, in this book that I'm going to shamelessly plug by an amazing author named Larry Broughton. Who might that be? Victory, seven revolutionary strategies for entrepreneurs. We have a chapter in here on coaching. And in fact, we've got a little grid here that talks about the difference between a coach and mentor. Do you remember that?
In fact, I've got the book right here. What page is that on, dude?
That's on page 74. And so what I say in here is, though, although often used interchangeably, there are a few key differences between a coach and a mentor.
Yeah.
A coach is usually for a specific duration. A mentor is a longer-term ongoing relationship. A coach, there's usually a formal relationship with meetings at regular intervals, whereas a mentor is more informal with meetings set when the mentee seeks advice. Now, I've got folks who call me a mentor, and we speak on a regular basis. It's scheduled because that's what works for both of us, right? Regarding the scope, a coach generally is limited to a specific area of development, whereas a mentor takes a more holistic view of the mentee's work and life, more intimate. So it's more intimate. So oftentimes a coach, like you're trying to learn, let's say you're on a baseball team, they have batting coaches, right?
Yeah.
They teach you how to be a better batter, right? They have pitching coaches. They focus on pitching. They don't practice on ground balls. They don't practice on anything else, right? So that's kind of the difference. Whereas a mentor, a good mentor, looks holistically, your whole life. They look, what I try to say is they look beyond the bottom line. How's your spiritual life? How is your relationship with your significant other and your friends? How's your, financial, your personal financial life? What's going on? It's just all of it, right? And then focus. A coach is work-related, specific, with immediate goals. Mentors are both career and personal development. And then expertise. A coach need not have experience in the client's profession, whereas a mentor further along a mentee's path, been there, done that. So one of the things that we like to say is, and it's based on a story that with my kids, Dave, you'll remember when they were in grade school and they were first grade, they had reading buddies, right? And the fourth graders would come in and coach.
Yeah.
And the first graders on reading, and the fourth graders looked like gods to the first graders, right? But the fourth graders look like idiots to the seniors, to the people that were in high school, right? But really, you just need to have someone in your life that's further down the path than you are. Mm-hmm. They can help you see the roadblocks, help you navigate the obstacles that come up. So anyway, page 74 of Victory, we got a little graph on there, but maybe we ought to kind of take it to the next step and dive into, the key qualities of an effective mentor or coach from this thing that we provided for Ugozi. And this is free to those folks that are in our Ugozi Insider program.
Yeah. Ugozi Insider. We're making it available at HireMyVA for those folks as well. Yep. So really what we talk about in this document is the really 3 categories of benefits. And I think you alluded to them in, what you just talked about, coaching and mentoring. And we need both, right? It's the 3 categories of yourself. It helps yourself, right? And they're going to help you navigate your future.
For sure.
As well as, like you talked about, looking at the whole person, help you navigate all those 2 things with your family in mind.
Coaches don't usually worry about that. There are a lot of quote unquote mentors and gurus out there. That's all they focus on is how much money are you making?
Yeah.
I see it all the time. And what happens along the way, when all you focus on is your business, something in your life is going to be damaged, ruined, left behind, stepped on, squashed, whatever adjective you want to use. And then life becomes this crazy roller coaster ride. What I'd rather have people do, and I know you as well, Dave, is have great success in business, great success in their spiritual life, great success with their significant other and their spouses, great success with their families, their friends, their leisure life, all of it. So,
yeah, and
those 3 things are very important with yourself, with your future, and with your family, community, kind of thing.
Well, and I think there's an aspect of it you talked about where they have that success, but I think there's also the other times where they can speak out of their failures, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that they've got to be successful in all those areas, but they've got to, yeah.
I think it's vitally important that you have a mentor who's honest and authentic with you. If someone is speaking just out of their successes and they're not sharing with you the full scope of the experiences that they've learned. How many times have we been in mentoring sessions, Dave, or masterminds, and people have started crying?
Oh my gosh. All the time.
Virtually every time.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that one of our success principles is, do we get anybody to cry? Right. Remember that?
It's usually that they're crying out of a breakthrough that they're having because someone has gotten someone has gotten real. And it's just a great lesson in life, Dave. I think that if you're trying to build a relationship, and it's a new relationship, usually there's just a little bit of a kabuki dance that goes on. Yeah. Who's going to get real first? Who's going to get vulnerable first, right?
Yeah.
And generally, the sooner someone gets real, the sooner you go deep.
Well, and
Right?
that leads, I think, to our first point.
Yes.
So we've got really 4 points that we have to be wary of before you actually choose a mentor or a coach, right? So the first point, and we'll talk about this more, but the first point is be sure to ask yourself if you are coachable, because it does start with you.
Yeah, it does start with you. I think we need to connect the dots in our lives. I can think of one client of ours in particular who'd had several coaches and mentors and was always pissed off because they they never work. Coaches and mentors, they don't really work. My friends, sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, what's the common denominator?
Yeah.
Because sometimes
Absolutely.
it's sometimes we don't like critical feedback. Sometimes we don't want to be directed. And so we have to humble ourselves. We have to lower our ego, take the pride out of the equation sometimes, and be coachable. Be willing to listen. Be willing to listen.
Yeah. And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say, and I think that's so important. We also talk about related to that is, we have in here, a mentor is responsible to you. They're not responsible for you.
Oh, ain't
So
that the truth? Say that one more time. Say that one more time, just to hit it home.
a mentor is responsible to you, but they're not responsible for you. In other words, you think about, the classic is you think about a sports team, right?
That's right.
You've got, probably the most successful pro football coach ever is Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Amazing, and paired with Tom Brady all these years. But Bill Belichick did not throw the passes, right? Tom Brady was the one who ends up being responsible for those things.
That's right.
But Bill Belichick is there for Tom Brady to help him work through all those issues and to get them to that next level of success.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. So this is a reminder. Mentors are responsible to you. They're not responsible for you. They're not responsible for your success. You have to do the hard work.
Yes.
Yeah. You have to. You have to.
Yeah. And if you are going to be blaming your coach, blaming other people for things that are happening in your life, both, obviously the bad stuff, then people are not going to want to be around with you, including your coach. Right. So you've got to take that responsibility. And if you're doing that, chances are your coach is going to look forward to spending time with you. And that's what you want. That's what you want in a relationship, any type of a relationship. You want both of you looking forward to spending time together. Now, there may be some times when you're like, oh my gosh, Larry, I didn't get the stuff done I was supposed to get done. I feel awful.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Right. But hopefully that's going to be the exception, because if you're coming every time to that relationship with that attitude, well, then what are you having a coach for? Because you're not doing the stuff.
But you know what? There are a lot of relationships that are healthy and very good for me that I avoid until I'm actually there in the meeting. You know what I'm talking about, Dave.
Yeah.
I'll just be transparent with everybody. Dave and I are part of a group. We get together with a couple other guys every week, and invariably somebody complains, I don't really want to be here tonight. And at the end of it, it's like, oh, I needed to be here. It was so good that I was here. Right. And it's the same thing with sessions that I've had with my mentors. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. Why? Because it's work. It's work.
Yeah.
And work hurts sometimes. There are times when I don't want to go to the gym, but I get there and it's the best workout I have. Right. And I feel better afterwards. Right. That's the interesting thing about life. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Pain builds character is what my wrestling coach say.
It does. All right. So the first point we just went through was be sure to ask yourself if you're coachable. Remember, it starts with you. Okay. Here's the second point you need to do before choosing a mentor. Seek the right relationship. Okay.
True.
And so let's talk about a few things to guide them, right? So as far as the right level of relationship, one of those things about right relationship is just talking with them and figuring out, well, are they going to speak honest with me? It's like going through this checklist and figuring out if you're going to be able to work together.
Yeah. We all have personalities, and sometimes there are personality conflicts, right? And sometimes there are personalities that actually jive really well with each other. There are times when a mentor brings out the best in the other person, and there are some clients. Hey, I can tell you this: there are some clients that bring out a better mentor in me than others do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the point here is just because there is a mentor or a coach that's available and you can afford them doesn't mean that they are right for you. You have to interview each other,
Yes.
right? To make sure that you bring out the best in each other. There are some mentors who are too stinking direct and they hurt people's feelings. And I don't know if this is the area that we talk about this or not, but there are other mentors that are really kind of soft and, easy breezy cover girl. And you need to find out who works best for you. Not somebody who lets you off the hook all the time, but someone who brings out the best in you. So there should be an interview process along the way. It's like any other relationship, right? You do a little bit of dating before you jump into bed with each other. But like any other relationship, this is not indentured servitude. You need to have the courage to walk away when the relationship just, so let's say that you say, hey, let's actually work with each other. Maybe it works great for a season, but it might get to a point where, and I've seen this, it happened to me with a mentor several years ago. I outgrew that person. My business got bigger than they did. The challenges that I was facing were bigger than they could guide me on. This is why we were saying earlier, a fourth grader looks like God to a first grader, but that fourth grader might not be the best person to lead somebody in high school.
Yeah.
So don't be too afraid to walk away, not walk away, but be willing to part ways with the mentor when the time is right.
And I think that could potentially be really hard, especially if your personality, like for me, is somebody who's very loyal. And it's like, walking away from my mentor that I've had for like 3 or 4 or 5 years. Well, here's an example. So I do web development, right? And I've had my web development coach since 2014.
Sure.
It's getting to be 6 years.
Uh-huh.
We talk every month, one-on-one, but he's still helping me move forward.
Right.
Because he is moving forward in his business and discovering new things. And
great point.
And there is maybe a slight twist in this is that he's still coaching me, but it's becoming a little bit more reciprocal.
Right.
That makes sense.
And that's not a bad thing to have either.
Yeah.
Right. But yes, your mentor ought to be dedicated to lifelong learning as well.
And I was going to say the other interesting thing is that he's almost morphed from being a coach to a mentor because our relationship has changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty rare quality because he used to be a pastor and and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so
he's bringing more to you than just the web development part.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. So that was the second one. So before choosing a mentor, the first thing that we had was ask yourself if you're coachable. Second thing is seek the right relationship. You may outgrow them.
Oh, before you go to the next one, here's the other.
Sorry, too late.
Go ahead. Not fast enough. Is this? I think it's easier to part ways with your mentor if in the beginning you both have the conversation that says, "Hey, I'm excited about this journey, and I hope you understand that we're not married. We may not be doing this 5 years from now, or even a year." Well, mentors generally go at least that long, but we may not be together five years from now. And I hope that you're such a great mentor to me that I want to outgrow you. It's like, the little, what was the TV series Kung Fu, right? Where Caine outgrows the masters, right?
He did, Grasshopper.
Yes, that's right. Right. So I think you have that conversation early on and you say, I think it's time for me to find another mentor.
And it might be, and it might be a good idea to set a whatever schedule you want to reevaluate for yourself, right? Sure. Maybe it's every time you change your filter in your furnace, or it could be first of the year, whatever it is, but think about that.
Spoken like an engineer. You got everything plotted out and you're like, have I ever changed the filter in my furnace? That's a good one.
Right. Well, that's point number 4. Change the filter in your furnace. No.
Yeah, there you go. All
right. So we talked about the relationship there.
Yes,
then the third point is review the mentor's track record of success. So that's where you're going to have to do your homework on that.
Well, a good mentor ought to have this stuff readily available for you. on their website, or have testimonials, have letters of recommendation, look at the past clients, how have they been successful.
Yeah.
Now, there are some coaching and mentoring relationships, Dave, that are confidential. I get that. But I don't know a mentor out there where every relationship that they've got is confidential. So if you find a mentor and they say, hey, do you have any testimonials or any past clients that I can speak to? They say, nope, they're all confidential. I would start questioning.
Well, yeah. And
Start questioning, because there's got to be somebody that can at least get on the phone with you and say, yeah, I was with Dave as a mentor for X number of years and it was awesome.
Yeah. And there's nothing confidential about that.
Yeah. You don't need to go into detail on stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But most clients who have seen exponential growth in some areas of their business or life are usually absolutely willing to blow the trumpet for the mentor who helped them get there.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's also important about this is when we talk about the track record of success, if they're being a business coach, of course you want the business track record, but you also want the coaching track record as well.
Yeah, because you could be a great basketball player, but you don't know how to teach or mentor someone, right? I learned this in martial arts as well. And my twin brother, who's this amazing martial artist, I remember him as a young black belt saying, hey, I would rather be a better teacher, instructor, sensei than practitioner. Now, as it turns out, he's an amazing practitioner and, grandmaster at this point. But not all practitioners are great mentors.
Yeah.
Some are.
Yeah. And the other thing is that track record of success, I think, doesn't have to be, perfect.
No, it should. It's not going to be perfect. If they tell you it's perfect, they're lying.
Yeah. I think I was listening. I think it was to Tim Ferriss. It was somebody like that who said from an athlete perspective or a physical or a coaching perspective, is everybody would love to have like the gold medal winner in the Olympics be your coach. Right. But there's a lot of people who just have missed that got the silver or the bronze, and yet they might even be a better coach and be cheaper.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Or know what they did wrong not to get that gold medal and be willing to share that.
Yes, you're right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about if you're coachable. We talked about getting the right relationship. We just talked about looking at their track record of success. And then the fourth thing is to consider your industry. So the idea here is that they may not necessarily have to have experience in your industry. It depends upon what you want, right? It could be like, if it's a business coach, it could be business in general, or it could be in your specific industry. It just all depends.
Yeah, like you've got a coach that's turned into a mentor that's specifically on web design, right? Yeah. And there are other mentors like me that are a little bit more broad-based. It's on general entrepreneurship and leadership, right? So it really depends on what it is that you're looking for. What area of your life or business are you seeking to improve or get closer to your fullest potential? So I guess it takes a little bit of self-reflection on what's the goal. Yes. Why do I want a mentor? Why do I want a coach? And usually that's an area of significant struggle or roadblock that you're having. The interesting thing though is that all of this, when it comes down to leadership, it's always people. It's a people. One of the things I like the story I shared, Dave, that I'm going to share now. Just what you don't want me to share this one?
No, go for it. It's the 4 Ps, right? And I love it because I'm smiling because I recognize it. And I know that every time I hear it from you, it's like, thanks for the reminder. TFDR.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For those who haven't heard this before, I was blessed that I attended the executive program at Stanford years ago. There were, I forget, I think at least 3 of the instructors were Nobel laureates. I mean, these were some really bright people. And I had an instructor who was pounding into our heads this. He said, listen, if you're growing a business, if you're starting a business, you're the CEO of a business, if you can identify which areas of where the problems you're having, if they fall, let me back up. all areas of all blah, 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 blah. That's what he said.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he
So-
said that at one point.
Yeah, no. Here's basically this. He said that in business, all problems fall into 4 different categories: people, product, process, and profit. He said, if you can identify the problem area, the category that it falls under, it's easier to deal with that problem. So if you're having a problem in business, is it a people problem? Is it a product problem? Is it a process problem? Or is it a profit problem? And I said, oh, that was brilliant, right? And so I had these 4 categories in the front of my notebook that I carried around. And every time I ran into a problem, I said, okay, what problem does this fall into? So after carrying that thing around for a few years, and then after actually starting to actively mentor people, what I realized, Dave, is that if we have a product problem or a process problem or a profit problem, you know, we have a people problem.
Yeah.
And then what I realized is they're all people problems, right? Like if we have a product, process, or profit problem, we probably got the wrong person on the wrong seat on the bus, as Jim Collins talks about, who wrote Good to Great and Built to Last, also a former Stanford professor. So they're all people problems. So if you have mentors who understand this, and they not only have a high IQ, but a high EQ.
Yeah.
Right? Which is their emotional quotient, that they know how to deal with people. Those tend to be really rock star mentors. Okay. Like I'm a better mentor than a coach. I just am, you know, like getting granular on a specific topic is very hard for me, you know, but there are some people who are great coaches. Like I said, batting coaches, you know, website coaches. So
yeah,
make sure you know what you're looking for.
And I'm not going to say what is most valuable, but well, I shouldn't say that. I will say what I think is most valuable, and really what I think is most valuable is more of a mentor, because it's, I mean, like say you wanted to learn how to do something, and getting a coach, you can get a lot of the way there through all kinds of different training programs.
Sure.
That are out there that you can buy individually depending upon what you want to do. But like you said, having that mentor help you identify the people problem, and the people problem may not just be somebody else. It would likely be you, be you, helping you identify what the real cause is. Then I mean, I think that's worth a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Dave, this kind of brings us up at this point to these 20 keys that we developed for this packet that we had shared earlier. Maybe what we ought to do is just kind of burn through what are those 20 keys, or key qualities of an effective mentor. Key 1 is a caring, sharing spirit and willingness to teach. So what we say here is that they shouldn't be holding anything back. They should be sharing what they know, what they've learned, what they've experienced and witnessed from others. One of the most powerful things I found in the mentoring programs that you and I run is that we don't share secrets with one client to another, but we share lessons learned along the way from them and from us. Hey, I wouldn't do it that way because here's what we've seen. So we have to have somebody who's willing to share the track record and really be willing to teach. Key number 2.
Key number 2, enough wisdom and experience for your needs. So I think this relates to what you were talking about before. 4th grader versus can mentor a 1st grader, right?
Right.
Like we say they don't have to be the biggest rock star in the industry. They don't have to be the gold medal winner, but they've got to be able to relate to you and your circumstances and understand where you are at. And quite often it could be that somebody who isn't the biggest rock star, they can understand where you are a lot better. If it's been 25 years since they experienced where you're at, it may be harder for them to remember that.
Yeah, that's great. We ready for key number 3?
Key 3.
All right. Possess a positive outlook. This is so important to me.
Yeah.
There are enough negativities in life and in business that your mentor ought to be someone who can, in a positive way, even frame negative challenges, negative roadblocks, any kind of negativity by being having the ability to see here's what the opportunity is in that negative thing that's going on in your life. This comes easier to some than others, but I can just tell you, I had a mentor. It was a very short-lived mentoring relationship where he was great in the beginning, but I don't know if it was something that was going on in his life or what, but everything just turned negative. There was just like this dour, pessimistic attitude about him. It's like, I can't deal with this. And so I we parted ways. I set him free. He set me free, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's
So
good.
you got to have a positive outlook.
Well, but it doesn't mean positive is ignoring reality either, right?
No. It's not Pollyannish.
Yes.
It's not Pollyannish. But it's saying, hey, yeah, I've been there. I have clients who have been there. And so here's what we're going to do to get you out of it.
Yes.
It's not like you come to them and say, hey, I have zero cash flow. I don't know how I'm going to pay the next bill. Oh, man, that really sucks. Yeah, think about all the negativity. Boy, I mean, they just they end up being like that concrete block on your foot when you jump into the water. They can't be that. They need to be the life preserver, the life jacket that you put on, not the concrete block.
Agree.
Okay.
Got it. All right. Key number 4, they need to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
So, and we talked about that a little bit before, but they need to be honest with you. And it's a two-way street. You've got to be honest. Remember, you got to be coachable. You got to be honest with them, but they've got to be honest with you. And what that means is they've got to tell you what you need to hear, but not just what you want to hear, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes, and you got to be careful of this, is that some mentors, they just, want to be liked. They want to be friends and buddies.
Yeah.
No. I think a good way to do it, as we've said in this document, is they've got to be saying, they got to be saying to themselves or to you, like, if you want to fire me at any time, that's cool. We're going to end at any time you want, but I'm going to tell you the truth. That's what they should be saying. But then the truth in a positive way, like you talked about.
Yeah. Right. All right. Key number 5 is enthusiastic about what they do. They have got to want to be doing this mentoring. They've got to be excited about working with you, and not just seeking a paycheck or a retainer from you. They've got to kind of be turned on by what you're doing and get they've got to be codependent. Like their success, I mean, their happiness is tied to your success, right? So I think that's really key. Just positivity and enthusiasm go a long way.
Yeah. And I know that the clients that we have, when they struggle, I mean, we feel it. It's like,
oh my gosh, we take it too personally sometimes.
At some times, there are times, but but that's a good thing, right? Because that causes us to start thinking about it offline. That's and then when we have that session with them, we're like, well, here's some options.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Is it my turn?
6. Yep. Key 6.
Objectivity. I forgot. Okay. So objectivity, right? So in other words, they've got to be willing to look at every side. They've got to be willing to look at your perspective, your business perspective, your family's perspective, everything, right? So one of the reasons why I think it's so important for us to have a person in our life that will tell us the truth is because we can ask our friends and family, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Oh, well, they'll say, well, yeah, go for it or do that, because they're close to you. They don't want to get in a conflict with you. They don't want to sink your boat or anything. They just always want to be positive and love you, et cetera. So they're always want to be they want to always agree with you.
Right.
But somebody who's a good mentor or coach, they will be objective about the situation and say, here's the good things, here's the bad things, and help you to evaluate them.
Yeah, a good mentor will remind you of this mantra: reality is your friend.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Reality is your friend. And friends and family don't want you living in reality. Oftentimes, they don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see you, fail. So they may not tell you the truth sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Key number 7 is compassion. Good mentors are going to care about you, and they're going to do great things for you and with you. And I'm going to use a word here that often isn't used in business, Dave, in that I think that mentors ought to love you. Yeah, and you ought to be able to love them.
Yeah.
Compassion goes a long way. They can feel your pain and your hurt. When you get to that point, in the relationship, and this truly is a relationship, we've had clients tell us that you are the only safe harbor that I have in this storm. I can't speak to my spouse about it. I can't speak to my executive committee or my team members about it. You're the only person I can talk to about this. And so compassion is really one of the important keys of an effective mentor.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. Key number 8, they need to be a great listener.
What were we talking about, Dave? Let's talk about me.
Clean our ears, Larry. But yeah, it's and being a great listener is not. I think you guys have heard that. What is it? That drive through listening technique where you kind of act like you are taking an order at a drive through, and they say, "Hey, you want fries with that?" And yeah, you say, "Yeah, I do." And then at the end, they repeat back, "Okay, you want hamburger with fries?" Blah blah blah. And that's not what we're talking about here, right? It's not this drive-by listening. They need to actually repeat back what you said, but they've got to be able to, what we would say is, read between the lines.
That's right.
And really get to say, well, here's what I think you're saying, and here's what you're probably thinking. But then they've also got to be able to obviously hear what you're potentially not saying, right?
Yeah. I have an attorney friend that I share this once in a while who used to remind me that behind every question is really a question. Oftentimes people, you won't always share the real problem that you're having with your mentor because you want to sugarcoat it a little bit, or you don't want to like open up the kimono completely. So a mentor needs to know, they can kind of laser beam right in. Okay, I got you. I really know what you're asking me here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Key 9.
Key 9 is dedicated to lifelong learning. I think you've probably heard this before. Those tips, tools, techniques that were used 20 years ago, 25 years ago in business, many of them may not be effective any longer. There are timeless techniques in relationships and leadership that are just they've been around since biblical times, even before that, right? That are still effective today. However, there are some things in business that do indeed change. Nuance changes, relationships change in business. Marketing changes all the time. So they've
Absolutely.
got to be dedicated to lifelong learning. And so if they're still talking to you about a book that they wrote 40 years ago, and that's the only thing they teach from, you may want to look around a little bit more. But they got to be dedicated to lifelong learning.
Well,
And not just about their specific area of expertise. Again, I'm talking about mentors.
oh, everything. Yeah.
Right? But everything. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that, as long as we do coaching and we do programs and stuff, and like you and I run businesses ourselves,
right.
And like when we talk about HireMyVA, that's one of our businesses, and we've got people on our team, virtual assistants. We're actually doing what we say we've done, and we're continuing to do it. And I think that's such an important distinction. And I'm almost always going to have a coach or a mentor who's actually doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Okay. Key number 10, they care about your whole health and not just the bottom line. I think we talked about that a little bit, but they're not going to just focus on your business goals and helping you there. They're going to make sure that they're going to help you accomplish your goals, but not at the expense of your health, your family, your physical health, your mental health, your financial health, all those kind of things. They're going to want to make sure that you're, as healthy as you can from the entire person.
Yeah, this is why we developed this whole health spider graph in our mentoring program that measures 8 different aspects of your life. Truly, I'm just going to tell you, honestly, 20 years ago when I started mentoring people, I was just looking at mentoring entrepreneurs. I just had basically 5 key metrics from business that I used to look at. And most of them were after on revenue and profit and cash flow. Right. And then was wondering, why are people getting divorced? Why do they have no relationship with their children? Why is turnover so freaking high in their business? Right. So when we developed the whole health spider graph, there was something visual, something tangible they could look at and start measuring, because what's measured is improved. Right. So I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, I do too.
Key number 11 is that a great mentor, an effective mentor, ought to be offering both direct and respectful feedback. This is an EQ kind of thing. There are some people who are hyper direct and they're right to the point. And what happens when you are too direct with people, you end up hurting people's feelings, right? And business and life is stressful enough, but someone who speaks in a direct fashion without the respect, can be like a bull in a china closet sometimes. The other side of the coin, Dave, is that someone who's too respectful and not very direct, they go in and they tap dance around. They're not able to give the bad news. That's not good either. These are usually the people who want the mentors who just want mentors, air quotes, who just want to be liked, right? And who are looking for that next paycheck. They're not going to give the bad news because they probably know how to communicate effectively, but they don't want to lose you as a client either, right?
Yeah.
And so the key here is both direct and respectful communication.
Yeah. And there's a great way to communicate. I wouldn't say negative feedback, but yeah, negative feedback. There's a really good way to do that. We'll talk about that some other time. But there's a good way to do it to make sure that it is done in a way that
Right.
You as a mentee or coachee are still open to receiving that. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Good.
Pause. It's 5:24. We'll edit this out, but it's 5:24. Do you want to keep going?
How else can we do it if we don't?
Oh, I say what we do is say, hey, we got to run. We're going to go over the rest of these in the next episode, or just something like that, because it's going to take us a little bit.
Yeah, let's do that then. Let's do that.
All right, so let me get going.
Okay.
Hey, folks, we've gone through the introduction and the first 11 keys, and it's a pretty long episode. We're going to close this one down right now, and we're going to do a whole nother episode to give you the rest of them. So stay tuned.
Part 2.
Yeah, it'll be part 2. And what we'll do is we'll kind of do a quick summary at that one, and then go through the rest of these keys and maybe have a few extra ones along the way as well.
There you go.
So anything you want to close out with here, Larry?
No, mentors are so important to people's life. If you really want to reach your fullest potential and find freedom in your life, one of the quickest ways to do it is to hire a mentor.
Oh, got to do it. Got to do it.
Yeah,
I've done it for years.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, it's saved me so much time, saved me money, everything. All right.
It's an investment. It's an investment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you folks for joining us. It's been fun riffing with you, Larry, on this.
Yeah, thanks you too, Dave.
But remember, folks, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom. And we're here to help you here at HireMyVA. Part of what we do here is we help coach and mentor you in building your team and helping you to hire somebody. So we help teach you to prepare properly.
Yeah.
We help teach you to hire properly and help you to thrive properly with them. But given that, we want you to do 3 things right now. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already done so. Please do that. And then give us a rating, preferably 5-star. Yes. And then go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community, all our different freebies, articles, etc. Because even without experience, you can properly prepare yourself, hire and thrive with virtual assistants.
That's right.
As we talked about, Larry and I have helped a lot of folks. We've had coaches and mentees ourselves, mentors ourselves. We've had those folks. So we've got a lot of experience with that and can help guide you along the way. So just go to HireMyVA.com for more information on all that.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks, do yourself a favor. Do your community and your family a favor. Go do something significant today. All right, folks, go get them.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Stopping.
Okay.